Good evening. Welcome to PS. This is The Last of Us, a show where we discuss the HBO series The Last of Us. Each week, we give our opinions, criticisms, and having discussions of each episode in the series. So, we'll be discussing the PlayStation award-winning game of the same title and weighing them against one another. This show will be available each Monday night on our YouTube channel. And when I say Monday night, I mean Monday night. So you're probably not listening to this till Tuesday. But, we're going to be spoiling the game in these conversations. And we are going to be having conversations with the understanding that you, the viewer, listener, have watched this episode that we're talking about. This is, of course, a PlayStation podcast that we do, but this is also a YouTube exclusive for our channel. We don't have this as a podcast format. So for those just stopping by, my name's Fred Oakman, and that there is Jake Peters from the Windy City, Chicago, on a work trip, making the time to have this conversation. So we also host a weekly PlayStation podcast, and it's called PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. And we've been doing that for a lot of years. So if you're interested in weekly PlayStation discussions or just interested in viewing more content like this video, all you got to do is subscribe and let us do the rest of the heavy lifting. And lastly, we have a Patreon for our PlayStation podcast. If you want to throw us $1 a month, we're not going to say no. It's out there if you want to do it. It's never expected, but always appreciated. We'll give you a shout out on the show and send you a free die-cut vinyl sticker. I've got a lot of these to give out, so make sure you guys tune in to this bad boy and throw us $1 every month if you want a sticker. That's how you get it. It's the only way you can get it. And you can find that at patreon.com/PS. This is awesome. And the $1 a month patronage goes a long way. Helps us stay in cost doing the show. But today we're here not to talk about all that stuff. We are here to talk about Season 1, Episode 7 of The Last of Us. And this title was aptly named Left Behind. And like I said before, Jake is far away in a faraway land, maybe closer to some of you at this point. And thanks, Jake, for taking the time to do this. I didn't realize you were going to be out of town this weekend or this week. Maybe I did. Maybe, I don't know.
I forgot to say something, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's fine. So thanks. So if the audio sounds a little weird, it's because Jake is on his touring rig right now. And
my work laptop.
Yeah, the work laptop is doing the heavy lifting for him. And maybe not to the best of what you guys are used to. But let's talk about this episode real quick. What I do, and I haven't even explained this to you, Jake, but what I do is when I watch this show, I just take down notes, like of the progression of the show, because it's easier for me to recall during this conversation if we just kind of go through it. We don't have to touch everything, but if we just go through it from beginning to end, kind of the key points, what we felt about it. This was almost exactly like the Left Behind DLC, to a T, I thought.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing that I would say is that we pretty much called it. This entire episode was a flashback.
Yeah.
So if you didn't listen to the last episode, basically what we were kind of saying is that we kind of had a feeling that Joel got hurt and they were gonna kind of they're going to torture the viewer a little bit by making them sit through, I don't want to say sit through, but get Ellie's backstory before you get to find out if Joel's going to be okay or not.
Right.
Now, I would say that it's not 100% the same as that, because we know Joel's alive at the beginning of this episode. Which in the beginning of this episode, to be clear, is not the same as the game. Like in the game, you don't know that Joel is alive.
You're just all of a sudden
quite a while,
Ellie, right? You're just Ellie.
You're just all of a sudden playing as Ellie. And in this show, it starts out in the basement of the house where Ellie's taking care of Joel in some capacity.
Yeah.
So that was kind of I thought it was probably a smart move, considering they were going to spend the whole episode in a flashback to just like set the viewers kind of
a little bit at
ease a little bit. I mean, he's basically like, he seems like he's dying, but it's I thought it was kind of a good little move on their part, because in the game you're just like fuck, is Joel dead? Like, I have no idea.
Right. All of a sudden you're just Ellie. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, so yeah, the garage that Joel is stashed away in, lying down, and got the horse inside and everything. Dude, it looks exactly like the game. Like that house, like everything about it to me, from what I remember, it's like identical. Like it was really ridiculous.
Now I will. One of the things I do want to say is that I love the imagery of the horse parked in the garage. I think it's just so. I think it's so funny. I know that they're like that he's in there or she's in there because they don't want anyone to see the horse outside. They don't want people to know that they're there or whatever. But it's just kind of like a funny, just like, oh, we don't have cars, we have horses. Let's park the horse in the garage, kind of thing. I don't know. It just kind of, I thought it was funny when I was watching it.
Yeah, it's definitely the merging of two very different worlds. It's kind of cool. So yeah, and just so the viewers understand, the Left Behind. Well, we mentioned it being DLC. Now, if you're not a gamer, you may not know what that means. That means downloadable content. So the original Last of Us game was released, and this whole flashback didn't even exist. When this game released for the PlayStation 3, it literally didn't exist. This whole story segment. The game came out, it was out for quite a while, and then Naughty Dog, the game developer behind The Last of Us, released Left Behind as downloadable content, which means the gamer could pay an extra amount of money, download this story segment, and play it. So, and it is pertinent to the story of The Last of Us, and I think in the newer editions of the game, it's just pretty much baked right into it. I don't know if it's baked into it or if you can just play the modernized version. Do you know, Jake?
I think, I want to say, at the very least, I believe in The Last of Us Part 1, the newest remake, it is in there, but I think you have to, like, it's not part of the, like, you're not just automatically going to play it when you play the main story. You have to select that you want to do that portion of the game, I'm pretty sure.
Right. So yeah, both of our playthroughs of this game back in the day was on PS3. So we played the part where Joel gets messed up, and then, like you were saying, Jake, it just cuts, and all of a sudden you're Ellie and you're hunting. And it's just like, what happened? Like, how much time passed? What's going on? And you're just left, like, completely confused for quite a while. You just don't know what's happening. And so the implementation of how they did this was nice. Like you said, it keeps the viewer from, like, just being worried so much that they can't enjoy the episode. So it starts off with that, and then it instantly, she's getting ready to head out. Joel's, like, telling her, hey, just go north. I ain't gonna make it. And then it cuts to Ellie just opening the door. She might stitch him shut or something. I can't remember, but I don't know if that's later. But she opens the door, and then as she's doing that in the show, it just cuts back. It's a flashback of Ellie at the Fedra camp where they train the Fedra soldiers. And she's talking with the captain. She got into a fight with somebody who stole her Walkman. And they just give the impression that she's kind of like a hard ass who doesn't take shit from anybody. But she is getting in a lot more trouble right now in this flashback than what the captain is used to. And he pretty much just says, you got two fucking options. You can be a grunt and go do the shitty jobs if this is what you aspire to do, if this is how you want to behave yourself here. Or you can actually be smart about it, have a warm place in the winter, have a cold place in the summer, and just fucking... use your brain a little bit because you're not a dumb person. Like he kind of I would like to say handles her by through flattery. It's like, you're really smart. I don't know what you're doing in here. Come on, you got two options. I'm just gonna give it to you straight. Eye to eye. So what'd you think of that whole thing with them kind of showing that she's kind of a miscreant or whatever, kind of like a outlier of the Fedra students, like she's mixing it up, causing trouble?
I mean, it's kind of what you expect from her character, right? I mean, it's not like that out of the ordinary, I suppose, for her, based on what we've seen so far. I think it's kind of cool. I don't remember I only played Left Behind one time, so I don't remember if there was anything from the Officers Academy in the DLC. And I will say that it's kind of neat to see that a little bit. I like that. I like the the imagery of the Walkman, the Sony Walkman, because obviously this IP is a Sony product, but at the same time, it also kind of dates the show a little bit, where it's like the world kind of stopped when Walkmans still existed. So like, the fact that she's got this Walkman and she's going through. I love that the Aha song "Take on Me" is like a theme throughout this episode.
Yeah,
and they play it in like a few different
iterations,
kind of versions. Yeah, it's really cool. And the reason why I even brought that up was just because of the whole Walkman thing. Because there's a point where she like gets her Walkman back, and there's like the Aha like cassette tape is with it, which is really cool. This whole scene with I think it's Captain Kwong or whatever his name is. I thought it was interesting to me because I feel like even though it's really brief, I think it seems to humanize Fedra a little bit, because this guy doesn't seem like an asshole. He's got a picture of his wife and daughter on his desk. Like, it seems like he cares about Ellie and like wants her to succeed. He's like a high school principal almost, or something.
Yeah, like a guidance counselor or something. Yeah.
Yeah, where in a few minutes into the episode, when we get to Riley and she starts talking about the Fireflies, basically all they talk about is how Fedra is just their fascist pigs, basically. So it's like an interesting dichotomy, to be honest with you. I sort of liked that little, because it could have been way harder than it was. It could have been some militant, dude just like screaming down her throat or whatever. But no, he's just like a super chill, kind of caring dude that just works for Fedra. Now, maybe he did some fucked up shit outside of that classroom or whatever, but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, and you find out that, the girl that stole the Walkman, gave Ellie a black eye, but she says she put her in the infirmary. Like, she had, like, 7 stitches or whatever, and, like, Now, I don't know if that's Ellie just talking big, but I got a feeling that she's a scrap. We know she's a scrapper. We know she's a survivor, and she doesn't take shit from people. So I wouldn't doubt it if that's and all that this Captain Kwong guy does is just like, hey, listen, I'm not, she's just put me in the hole, and he's like, no, because that's not going to work for you, because we've already been down there and you're still acting out. So I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. Either you got one of two choices here. And then she's like, all right, fine, I'll be a leader. And like fucking walks out, and then she has the gall to ask for her Walkman back, and he pulls it out of the desk drawer and gives it to her. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. So that was kind of good. So smash cut to Ellie now later that night. She's in her dorm room or whatever, and there's an empty bunk, right? And you don't have any idea what that's about, except maybe the girl who stole her Walkman. They covered so much in that small scene, and I don't believe they go into Fedra Camp at all. Maybe in the DLC, maybe the only way they might is through possibly picking up like a letter or something, or reading something in a diary or something, but you don't get any of this. So this is the interesting part for me, at least, Jake, was this stuff that we get to see that we didn't see in the game. And this episode pretty much is 1-for-1 outside of this part, maybe with a couple other little small exceptions, exactly Left Behind. The DLC. But she's hanging out in her bunk or in her room, and there's an empty bed, and you don't really know what's going on, and it's storming out, and she looks like she's kind of bummed out and kind of pissed off and sad or whatever. And then this person breaks into her room and pretends like they're going to fucking kill her, and she pulls a knife on the attacker, and it turns out that it's her missing roommate for 3 weeks, Riley, and they're pretty tight. They're cool. And she says she's a Firefly. She says, hey, I've been gone for three weeks, and now I'm a Firefly. How did she prove it to Ellie? I don't remember. By just showing her the gun?
She had the gun. Yeah, she had the gun. The thing that we kind of failed to mention is the reason why Ellie got into the fight to begin with is because the girl that took her Walkman was like, Riley's not here to protect you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we know that this girl is Ellie's friend is missing, and then she shows up, and I thought it was kind of interesting that this place isn't on more of a lockdown, if that makes any sense. Like, you would think that it would be more difficult for someone to sneak in and out of a Fedra building,
Yeah.
but I guess, and I think it was Riley that makes a comment about how Fedra's fucking idiots. That's why they'll never see her coming in and out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that kind of makes sense, but this sort of like, it's interesting to me, the dynamic here, because the whole time Ellie's pissed off, and for good reason, because she thinks her friend's dead. But like, I like the part where Riley says something along the lines of like, I'm going to ask you to do something that you really don't want to do, but then you're going to say yes. And exactly that happens, and they end up sneaking out together because Riley wants to show her a night on the town after being gone for 3 weeks.
Right.
So it's cool. Like, I don't know what your opinion is of the actress that plays Riley. Her name is Storm Reed, I think, which is a fucking bomb ass name, first of all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought she did a pretty good job. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
She seemed kind of like a yin. I don't want to say like a yin and a yang with Ellie. And you find out more later just on the way that they like react to the what happens to them and everything. But like, she's still like kind of crazy like Ellie is, but she also somehow seems a little bit more put together. Like, she's experienced more shit.
She's older, right?
That Ellie hasn't, right?
Yeah.
Or do we know that?
Yeah, she said she was
assumed that,
17.
but I don't know. Oh, that's right. Because Ellie's like 15, right?
14 or 15,
So,
right? She's got a few years on Ellie, so.
And we find out that she had parents, and somehow she lived through their death. We don't know what happened. We just know that she lived through her parents' death,
Right.
and that's part of the reason why she's as rebellious as she is, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. They sneak out, and then as soon as they hit the ground, a Fedra, like, military vehicle comes by and shines the light down the alley, and they kind of have a laugh about it because she was like, "Oh, I thought you said." She's like, "Rocky start." Just kind of not a big deal. Rocky start. Let's keep going. So they find a bottle in their traversing from this dude that's like on like a catwalk or something. Like, he's I don't know where he's at exactly, but he's dead. It's in an apartment complex or something. And Riley's like, he wasn't here earlier, meaning she had scouted this area out already. And she's like, this dude wasn't here. And they found like a bottle of real whiskey, not like homemade whiskey in the apocalypse, like real whiskey. I don't know what kind of bottle it was exactly. But then she says something like, oh yeah, this guy must not have known not to mix pills with the alcohol. And then Ellie says something like, no, I'm pretty sure he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
So there's a little naivety, I think, on Riley's part. And then just like Ellie, she's smart, right? I think that's the difference between the two of them. Is it seems like Ellie is always playing a game of chess. You know what I mean? She's got that. She kind of has that back talk kind of. I'm smarter than you, and she's really quick-witted with her mouth. She probably gets into a lot of trouble. And Riley kind of just doesn't have that kind of spark in her, And I think Riley kind of maybe seems like she almost assumes the best of everybody, in a way. Whereas it feels like Ellie just doesn't want to be anybody's friend. So they find this bottle, they start drinking, and They're hopping on rooftops. The guy that had the bottle fell through the floor, and Ellie was laughing about it, and she said, "Well, was that someone was like, hey, you're I don't know how it came. It came out in a way that Ellie was like, is that wrong of me to laugh about that? I thought that was hilarious. That was the general idea. After that, they're drinking, and she's just kind of laughing about the guy just falling down, who knows how far, and his body just probably exploding on impact. She thought it was funny. And so, again, like, she's got this violent tendency to her. She thinks that shit. It's just like, what the fuck? So they're hopping on rooftops, and then they get to a mall. And it's supposed to be quarantined. They're worried about going in, right? And she says, no, it's sanctioned off. Ellie's like, we can't go in there. And then Riley's like, well, they restored power to it. And she goes, if it's sanctioned off, how come we can get in? And she just kind of slowly eggs Ellie on, and they get inside this mall. So you want to talk a little bit about the mall, Jake? Do you have anything you want to say about them getting to it? I mean, the surprise with the lights.
I don't really have a whole lot to say about them like getting there, because it's basically them just hopping on rooftops and just generally being kids. But
yeah.
The thing that kind of bugged me a little bit about the mall sequence is just how they just like write it off in the TV show that like, oh, this place is a bunker, nobody will see these lights but us.
Yeah.
But like in the same shot, literally the entire roof of it is glass. So like any building that is taller than that fucking place for miles would be able to tell that lights were on in that fucking mall.
Yeah, that's true.
And to me, it was just like, it seemed like a
immersion.
Like, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for something like that, because it's just like whatever. But I thought that was kind of weird. But I did like the set. I thought the mall was very cool. And it was like a real set that they made up. So it's pretty neat. Like, it wasn't like all this CG and shit. It was like a real place that they made. Mm-hmm. And I like how they commented on how some stores were looted and some weren't. And the stores that were looted were the ones that had things people needed.
Yeah.
And I love how they showed the shot of the Victoria's Secret and nothing was looted from there.
Yeah.
And because it's like, I mean, it's an apocalypse. Do you really need lingerie? I was like, maybe, if that's the only underwear available, but I don't know.
It's a good point. There's not even really a lot of fabric to it, so you can't really use it for anything. And then she kind of cracks the joke about Ellie wearing lingerie, and she's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Fucking shut up, Riley. Yeah. It's hilarious. Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of neat that, I mean, I feel like it was also a little bit, given my profession, I find it a little bit unbelievable that this 17-year-old girl was able to figure out how to restore power to this whole mall. But I don't. Maybe she had some, help from her fireflies, because we find out that it was like a stash for them or something.
Right.
But like
sleeper cell in there, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, I just find it funny that she's just like, oh, yeah, I just flip the fucking switch and turn all the lights on in this whole mall.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's probably relatively simple, but at the same time, it just seems so, I don't know. It's whimsical. It kind of feeds the episode. I get it. And it works.
Yeah, it does work. And the set is very, very nice, like you said. The other thing that I thought was interesting is she's like, I'm going to show you the 4 wonders of the mall. Instead of like the 7 wonders of the world, and the 4 wonders of the mall. And
I think there was 5, actually.
It turned out that there were 5. I think one was one was not intentional, I think, or something. I don't know. I feel like the photo booth maybe wasn't intentional. I don't know. But so Take On Me starts playing again, or playing for the first time possibly. During that part, and they're walking through the mall. It's lit up. It's the first time Ellie's ever seen anything like this, and it is actually really cool, even for the viewer at this point in the show, to see a mall lit up like that. It's like, whoa, that it is wild looking. You know what I mean? It's like, this is crazy. It's weird in that regard. I haven't been into a mall for a long time in real life, but there is something kind of magical about them. I know on YouTube, you can go on YouTube and there's a bunch of rundown mall videos, and you can find old mall video footage of like walkthroughs of malls that no longer exist because of the nature of the internet and stuff. So there is something kind of magical and youthful about just strolling around in a mall. You know what I mean? Like kids would do.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And then you see a Dawn of the Wolf poster just hanging up. And that's a movie, a fake movie that's referenced many times in The Last of Us. There's movie posters for this all over. It's just something Naughty Dog did or whatever. And I think they actually have some commentary about Dawn of the Wolf at one point, Ellie and Joel. But it's nice just to see the poster in the background. And then what was the first wonder? Do we even know? I didn't write them all down. Was it the mall itself? Or was it the carousel?
I want to say...
Oh, it was the escalator.
It was the escalator.
Yeah.
Then it was the carousel. Yeah, I don't know. The carousel part was cool. I mean, that's an iconic scene from the game.
Yeah, it really is.
When Riley starts up because I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the game, that's the only thing that lights up. I don't think she powers the whole fucking mall up in the game.
Well, you do get to play the video games. No, you don't. They're off. They use their imaginations. So
yeah,
right, yeah, you're right. The only thing that really powers on is the carousel. I guess just for impact. I guess for the length of the episode.
But I love that carousel scene because that's where they slowed down the Take On Me thing and everything. Just kind of got. It was just a really cool like almost like 80s movie kind of like rom-com kind of scene or something. You know what I mean? Where it was just very. I don't know. It just fit really well. I just love the way that it was portrayed.
Well, here's my question for you, because my initial thought. We'll talk about. Okay, so the escalator. They dick around in the escalator for a while. Ellie tries to run down them and realizes it's a bad idea. Almost wipes out. And then she's running up them, and she's like, "Oh, roll like a kid. Like, I'm not even going anywhere. Check it out." And she's like, it's just blowing her mind that stairs would move on their own. I love those things in The Last of Us. Like I mentioned the ice cream truck in the one episode where she thought Joel was fucking with her, and he's like, no, for real, that's what it did. It drove around and gave out ice cream. And she's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So like the escalator's blowing her mind that this is a real thing. Never heard of it before. When they get to the carousel, like you said, they get on there and her mind's blown. Like they're just like kind of sitting on it, and then it starts going around, and then Ellie's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. But the music that kicks on, you said, is Take On Me. I thought it was also, so hear me out, Donnie from Sunday at the Station, friends of ours, sent me a text, and he goes, Just Like Heaven by The Cure. Did you pick up on that? And I'm like, huh? So I rewound it, and I think it's Just Like Heaven by The Cure, the song. They're very similar. I'm not sure, though. It would make more sense to have it be Take On Me because of the reference to the game. What's that?
I was going to say, I don't know that fits.
I kind of want to Google it.
But I would rewatch it right now if I wasn't afraid to overload this fucking hotel internet. But
it's already bad as it is.
Yeah, I'm. It could be Just Like Heaven, but
I'm looking it up on my phone. Hold on.
Feel like. I don't know.
I want to clarify it because I thought it was Take On Me, but it was a weird rendition of it, right? It was softer. It sounded like carousel music. And then like he said, Just Like Heaven by The Cure. I'm like, no, that is what it is. It's Just Like Heaven. Hold on. I got to look it up. He's got a great ear for this kind of stuff. But I have to look it up. All right.
But there's that. So there's the thing from Just Like Heaven. It's that melody that is very similar to the pre-chorus for Take On Me.
Yeah.
And that's what's playing. So I guess it could be either one.
It is Just Like Heaven. It says right here on the internet. It says,
is it?
The song is a cover of the Cure song Just Like Heaven, covered by Rockabye Baby. The song in its original form was a hit for the pop-punk band. It was considered to be the Cure's strongest song by the frontman Robert Smith. Good ear, Donnie, awesome. If you're listening. I thought it was after he said that. I did recognize it, and I was like, "Oh, that's Take on Me," because Take on Me is very significant. Is it Last of Us Part 1 or Last of Us Part 2? Take on Me has a moment. But I don't think Just Like Heaven it shows up in the video game at all, does it?
I don't think so.
They're very similar.
Not that I'm aware
songs.
of.
They really are.
Anyway, it's just that melody. Like, you could literally take the melody of Just Like Heaven and put it right before the chorus of Take on Me, and it would fit perfectly. Like, you could literally mash those two songs together and make a medley, no problem. But I'll take the L on that one. I don't know if this is coming through the camera backwards or not.
No,
but,
you're. Yeah, it is backwards. There you go.
But yeah, if that's, it's cool. I mean, either way,
it's awesome.
It's a dope rendition.
Yeah, it is really cool the way they did that.
The scene is great.
It's a great
because
scene.
of that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think it would have been better if it was Take on Me, just because. I don't know why it's not, but maybe they couldn't find a version of it. They should have just got a hold of You or Me. We would have fucking written that, rewrote it.
Shit, I could fucking piano the melody of Take on Me in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, dude.
Done.
All right. Anyways, so I have a question because there's a moment in this where Bella Ramsey looks so freaking young, and like I thought she looked young as
this whole episode.
What is there some digital stuff going on? Like what? How do they make her look so young?
I think it's that this whole episode is basically just a, it's like an expression of her childlike innocence to the world at large and the way things used to be. Like the fact that every single thing that they come across in the mall, she's got this like childlike glee about what she is seeing.
Yeah.
And I think just that expression on her face, as opposed to like the stoic kind of disgruntled expression she normally has.
Yeah, maybe that helps.
It just makes her look younger.
And is she wearing her hair different or something? Like, I don't know.
I'm not sure, man.
But
I don't think it's any voodoo.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was like maybe some digital magic or something. She has slowly become Ellie to me more than the person from Game of Thrones, and I can approve of that. So,
I mean, I never got that far in Game of Thrones, so I'm not really sure about that performance. But
she's great.
I think that I've heard she's great in that.
Yeah.
But I think that she's doing a wonderful job portraying Ellie in this show.
I think so too. So, anyways, they find the photo booth. This is in the game. And they don't really. Riley has $1 or something, $5, puts it in. They get a picture, and then there's one, and she gives it to Ellie. And they're making the goofy faces like they make in the game. In fact, in the game, I believe when you did that, you had the option to share the photo or something. I forget what the thing was. And you got a trophy for it. I don't know, but that happens in the game. And then they make their way to the arcade, and. What's interesting in the game, The Last of Us, it's not Mortal Kombat 2 for probably licensing reasons. I forget what they call it, but it's very obviously like a knock and an homage.
Wasn't it tied into that like Savage Starlight thing?
Yeah,
it was, like,
I think so.
Something about it was like some woman who had like some fucking Wolverine claws that like tore people up. I don't remember what the hell it was called, but so just one comment on the. 2 comments about the photo booth scene. I love that the photos come out all faded because it's been 20 years since they were put in there. And the other thing that I would have to say is, did photo booths really cost $5 in 2003?
No.
I have a hard time believing that, but maybe they did.
That's probably all the money. She probably just had a 5, and because it doesn't mean anything, just put in whatever she had. You know what I mean? Money doesn't mean anything.
But it's I think it said put in $5.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm trying to find the arcade. It's called.
But I don't know if you noticed, like the arcade scene, because that's where we're moving on.
It's called The Turning.
Like, oh, okay. The Turning? I don't even recognize that.
Yeah, I think it's called The Turning in the game.
I thought it was interesting in the whole arcade sequence how much licensed shit was in there. Like all like freaking Daytona USA and like all these other
and they're not all owned
games,
by
like
Sony.
obviously Mortal Kombat. Yeah, a lot of them aren't owned by Sony. So I thought it was kind of cool that they probably were willing to although I don't know. I mean, maybe they just reached out to these companies as like, look, you don't have to pay us any money. We want to put your game in here for free. Just to have it as part of the sequence or whatever. Cuz I think it really does, especially for those of us that are gamers, it does help with the immersion to have shit that we could relate to in there.
Yeah, I agree.
Or it honestly might do more for the people that are not gamers because they'd be like, oh, when I was a kid, I remember seeing a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just the cabinet. It was like they literally were playing the fucking game.
Yeah.
Which is wild, with that. And they were showing like
character selection screen and
Melina versus Raiden and all this shit. It was very, and I love how they were portraying Ellie trying to figure out how to play the game.
Yeah,
like she was like slapping the joystick.
What do I do?
I thought
what
it was
am I supposed to do? Yeah, so funny.
I mean, to me, that seems, from my perspective, it seems kind of ridiculous. But if you think about it, in her world, she's never been exposed to a video game. So how would she have any context as to how a normal video game controls? So that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I just thought that little scene was kind of interesting, how she was like jumping around like a freaking kid on sugar playing this game, which was pretty neat.
You could definitely pick apart some stuff like that. Like the very first thing she does when she gets to the arcade is she pushes the coin return and looks for quarters. And it's like, you wouldn't know to do that. You've never been to an arcade before. How do you know what those buttons are?
Well, I don't know if that's what she was doing. I think she was just trying to figure out how to make it go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like pushing buttons.
Because that'd be the first thing I'd try to do.
Riley busted open the coin machine so that they could play it, which I thought was kind of cool. I think it's neat. This is one of those things, obviously, you have to suspend your disbelief on, because, like, the thought that these arcade cabinets still work after 20 years of, like, being in a dank fucking looted mall are pretty slim, but it's possible. I don't know. It's pretty wild, but I did like, because it kind of ties back to an earlier episode where Joel and Ellie come across a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet that's not working, and she like talks about how she like basically wishes she could play it, basically, which is kind of cool. And then you don't realize that, like, oh, she did play one before with Riley before that whole scene happened.
And she has a Mortal Kombat 2 poster in her dorm room at Fedra. So she's probably read about it or whatever, knows something about the game. And then the thing that, it's got to say one more thing. There's no fucking way that Riley figured out a finishing move for Mortal Kombat 2 on her spare time. Those moves are so hard to do. I can't even do them with the instructions. But still super cool.
And I do love that part where Ellie like gets to the end and Riley like tells her what to do for the finishing move, and she does it and like does the finishing move, but it's like you don't have that much time to put that shit in there.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
Finish you.
Mortal Kombat fucking finishing moves. You got to be on the ball.
You got to be really good at it. Yeah. And you have to set up the finishing move. You don't get it every time. So,
yeah.
Interesting. Anyways, that's the gamers and us coming out. But I thought it was really cool. I thought it was touching. And then as a gift, she walks. Here's something cool that I picked up on. There's an Uncharted reference. Ellie is following. Ellie's like, I gotta get going, and then she's like, no, I got one more thing or something. You come with me. So they go, and then they get to this taco concession place, this restaurant in the mall. Man, what the hell is it called? It's something taco. Macho Taco? Is that what it is?
I don't remember.
Man, but it is the taco place that in another Naughty Dog game called Uncharted, Nathan Drake teases Elena for working at. It's the name of the place that Elena worked at growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never known that.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's called Macho Taco or something. I wish I knew the name of it. It's a funny name. It might be that. I got to look it up. But so they go back behind this taco place. And Ellie's like, oh, so this has been where you're camping out. And Riley's like, yeah, pretty much. So, Taco Macho? What is it? Hold on. Last of Us Taco Stand. Not the last taco stand. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I got to look this up because I want to get it right. Last of Us Taco Stand. I don't know, man. It's not coming up because my phone sucks. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So Jake, they go behind this taco place, right? And what happens? She pretty much tells Ellie where you see a sleeping bag, and then they're having a conversation. She gives her the pun book, volume 2 of the puns. They tell each other some puns. They're laughing about it. And Ellie finds like a pipe bomb, a couple pipe bombs, and she kind of has a conniption.
Well, I love that the one pun that she says about the punchline is something about a screensaver, and they both like look at each other.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What's a screensaver?" And Riley's like, "I have no idea." And then they kind of like move on, because obviously neither of them have ever had a computer before. So yeah, it's the whole. But we were talking about where she finds the pipe bombs. It's kind of interesting because the whole time Riley's talking about how she, I won't, they won't blow you up. I won't let them blow you up, blah, 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 blah. And Ellie's just like, she's still kind of ride or die Fedra a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's just like, you don't have any control over them, essentially. And it kind of illustrates a little bit sort of the fact that Riley is kind of acting out in her own way by joining the Fireflies. She really doesn't know what she's getting into. And either that or she knows exactly what she's getting into and she's lying to Ellie about it, which is either one of those is interesting considering that, the whole, it's kind of like, the whole sort of truism that typically an extreme force, and we talked about this, I think it was in episode 4 or 5 in Kansas City, where it's like usually when an opposing force shows up to fight some kind of like oppression, they end up being just as bad or worse than the force that they're deposing.
Yeah.
And it kind of plays out similarly in some of the things that you see about the Fireflies. They're like, oh, we're going to make things better. We're going to make things better. We're going to make things better. And at the same time, they're blowing shit up and hurting people.
Yeah, killing people like Captain Kwong, right? And Ellie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you're right. So Ellie's really upset about this. And I found the name of the it's Macho Nacho. There it is. Macho Nacho. But yeah, that's an Uncharted reference. So she's upset about this, and she's like, you know what? I'm going. And so Ellie makes her way out with the pun book, and they have this argument, and Ellie gets pretty far out, and then she kind of pauses, and she's wiping the tears from her eyes, and then she decides, you know what? This isn't how I want things to end with Riley, right? So I'm going to do an about face. I'm going to go back in. And as she's turning back into the mall, she hears like this yelling. It sounds like Riley. And then she runs and she gets to where it is. And, being a gamer, I'm like, well, maybe this is how it happens. Maybe this is how they get attacked and bitten. But no. It was a trick. It was some sort of Halloween display that was yelling. And, Ellie comes back, and then they put on masks, and then they start dancing and stuff like in the game and having a fun time. And
that's what she says. She says this was the fifth wonder.
Yeah.
It was the Halloween store.
Right. Yeah, the fifth wonder. And so they nailed that too. I mean, that happens in the game. And then there's a scene where, Ellie's like, don't go. Well, they sit down. I think they sit down for a bit. And then she's like, you know what? She goes, you know what? You have my approval, Riley. That's fine. If you need to go or whatever, you have my approval. And then they're dancing or something happens. And then she's like, don't go. Like she changes her mind. She's like, don't go. Like she was just saying that to make Riley feel better about her decision. And then she said, don't go. And then they kiss. And Ellie's like, I'm sorry. And then Riley's like, for what? And then they both start laughing. And then I believe that's when the infected comes out of nowhere, right?
Yes. I think they hear him coming. And they kind of turn away from him. And then, like, Riley starts kind of unloading on this zombie. But,
Right.
yeah, it's... that whole scene with her and Riley, I thought was pretty well done. I mean, you don't know how two young actors are going to handle a scene like that.
You mean actresses?
And actresses, actors.
I'm just messing with you, man. No, you're right. They did a really good job, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they did a really good job, and that it really kind of felt, especially in the after, like what happens next, it really kind of felt like, and I love, just kind of to roll it back a little bit, I love how well of a job Bella Ramsey did at like subtly informing the viewer that she has a crush on Riley throughout the whole episode.
Like there's a little something
gets
more
and more
for her in this relationship.
Yeah, it's like the way she looks at her, and like how she like is adjusting her hair in like the Victoria's Secret window.
Right.
And like I think that whole thing was so well done by her. And even Storm Reed, like the way that they kind of did the whole scene at the end there, I thought it played out really well. It's been a long time since I've seen the scene in the game, so I don't remember exactly how well that worked in the game. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine it being any better than what we saw in that episode. I thought it was really good.
It was done really well. I agree. And again, we're in another situation for the show where, a lot of people are going to be, quote unquote, offended and all this stuff. But it's just like, man, you know what? Love is love, and let it be. I mean, these are two people that obviously care about one another, and it's the freaking apocalypse. But I heard that there was a ton of backlash about this episode because of that scene. And
yeah, probably because it's probably from all of the people that have never played the fucking game. Because
right, the same thing with
no different.
With the Bill and what was his name?
Frank.
Bill and Frank thing. It's just like, but even then, like some of the people who played the game still had wild issues with these scenes, and it just shows.
Well, I remember it was a big deal when Left Behind came out, because this scene that we're talking about is the first time. And I guess in this TV show, it's the same way. Like, you don't know that Ellie is a lesbian, or at the very least, sexually fluid.
Right.
Until this scene with Riley. Now, they're fucking in my opinion, now maybe it's because I know the outcome, they're telegraphing it the entire episode.
Oh, for sure.
But like, I don't know. I think that people just need to, like, do a little bit, like, live and let live a little bit, I don't know, like, I get that people, because of all of I would agree that there are a lot of shows out there that have an agenda with scenes like this, but this show is not one of them.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so tastefully done. I love the way that they wrote all of this stuff. Everything seems natural. It seems like how, like, when Neil was, woke up in the middle of the night with this fucking amazing story, that's just what was in his head. It's not like he was just like, well, how can I make this more woke? Like, I don't think
Right.
that was a part of it at all.
Right.
So I don't really want to give too much credence to the people barking about stuff like
No.
this because I think it's bullshit, really.
I
And
agree.
people just need to like enjoy the show. And yeah, you don't have to like it, but you know, I don't know. Is this scene literally any worse than when Joel is like fucking murdering people in cold blood? Like,
Right. Killing a kid.
I don't
like,
really understand.
Off screen, stabbing a kid in the chest to kill him. Yeah.
Yeah,
A child.
like, I don't know.
I mean, it's no different than, and we'll sidebar real quick just for the sake of it. Is Jake, your wife and I played a concert at the Edinburgh Hotel bar, and we had a heckler, right? And he just couldn't leave us alone. He just kept saying like, "Show us who you are, show me who you are." And Sarah's up on stage with me. We're just trying to like play original songs, and this guy was really giving us a hard time. Like he engaged me in a stare down at the merch table. He was really threatening, like kind of chest pumping, kind of like, and then he kind of left. And I was like, all right, sweet. The dude's gone. You know, we can enjoy our night. We can play for the rest of the people. Guy had the tenacity to come back and sit at the back of the room till we were done. We played a Tom Petty song, and he goes, that was the only song you played as far as I'm concerned. And like he was being really fucking aggressive. And it's just like some people just want to fucking fight. Like that's just it. Some people just want a full tilt fight. And some people, like that dude, he could have left anytime he wanted to go. Like, dude, if this isn't for you, then go. Right? And that's kind of like how I feel about this show. Listen, instead of just causing a big fucking scene about this like very innocent scene in the in the show or this relationship, instead of like going out there full blast on the internet, you know, just don't fucking say anything and just don't what? If it's not for you, it's not for you, right? Okay, done. It's that simple. You know, I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just shut up about it, but it does irk me a lot. It's like this.
No, they should definitely rewrite the whole fucking character and reshoot the whole episode
For those people.
and make it so that you find out after they kiss, Riley takes off of her wig and you find out she was a dude the whole time. So it's totally natural.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't know, man.
But anyway, so I guess we get to the crux of the episode when the infected, the clicker attacks.
Yeah.
This is weird because I would consider this isn't a clicker, right? This is just a runner, I suppose.
It's not a clicker yet, no.
It's got eyes, right? It is aware of them. It's chasing them. Yeah. So, and there's this tussle between the three of them.
Oh yeah,
and
it was good.
You know, I thought that whole scene was really, really well done, and I love the part, and this is kind of like feeds into what we've experienced with Ellie's character so far. How as soon as she gets done stabbing the infected guy in the head and she's dead, you can see she's like amped. She's like thrilled about what just happened.
She's charged. She's like, holy
how
shit!
They like killed that thing, and it pans over to Riley, and Riley's like, "What the fuck?" Like she's actually upset about it, and then she points out how Ellie got bit, and vice versa, and I don't know. I thought that whole scene was cool because it was a little fast, and I don't remember if it happens this fast in the game or not. It might, but it was like they kiss. They're like, "Yay, what now?" And then a fucking clicker or infected comes out of nowhere and just destroys all of their future together.
Right.
And
everything.
I think that's really, really interesting. And I want to get your opinion also too on. And Sarah and I talked about this after the episode. Like, how do you feel about the fact that they didn't show the end of it? It was just like they're kind of leaning on each other and then smash cut back to modern present day.
It's going to come back.
You think?
Yeah. We're going to get the ending of that. And it's going to come at a very important time in one of the next episodes. And it's going to be the fuel that Ellie needs to fight to survive, I think.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you say that. It might be. You might be right. Because I said something to Sarah about it, and she was like, I actually like that they kind of let it go. Because it's like, you know what happens, right? It's not like, I guess the one thing that is kind of left to be sort of like, we know Riley must get infected and Ellie doesn't, obviously,
Right.
so she goes away. But like, you would think that if they both turn, or if they thought they were both going to turn, Riley turns and she doesn't,
Ellie's gonna have to kill her.
like, Ellie has to escape from her because she's going to want to kill her. So that's a pretty interesting thing. Although I think we found out that the infected kind of ignore her if she doesn't engage them directly. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't really know in this
Yeah.
version of The Last of Us.
I can almost.
If I thought that Ellie had to kill her. But that doesn't happen in the show.
I don't know
At least
that.
not
I
in
don't
this
even know
episode.
that we see it in the game, but I hope that they come back. They've set it up now. There's going to be a scene where Ellie, her mettle is going to be tested in her ability to tolerate a shitty situation, and she's got to maintain the fight in her. And I think she's going to have to drudge up the things that make her the most angry in the situations this world's put her through. And I think she's going to have flashbacks about this as she is showing off her anger. I don't know how else to put it. And I think it'd be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, if you've played the game, if you haven't played the game, you won't know what we're talking about. But if you have played the game, the next episode is going to be the David sequence.
Yeah. You saw the
Which
trailer,
is-
right?
Yeah, if you saw the trailer for the next episode, you know that that's the case. And it's one of the most interesting parts of the video game. Because like I said, we said earlier, that's the part where Ellie and Joel get split. You have to play as Ellie, and then there's a point where you play as Joel and her at the same time. Like it goes back and forth. It's pretty interesting. And
Dude, it's so
I
good.
really am looking forward. I'm really looking forward to it.
I kind of want to buy the new version of the game, honestly. I'm not going to do it, but I want to. Yeah, it's really making me want to play through this game again, to be honest.
And I am really interested to see, based on the trailer, it seems like Troy Baker has a decent role in that episode.
Yeah, I think he's like
So-
David's right-hand man, maybe.
Yeah, and there is a character like that in the show, or in the game, I'm sorry. But, yeah, Troy Baker, for those of you who don't know, is the voice of Joel in the video game. So there's been cameos already, obviously, with the guy that played Tommy was one of the militant guys in Kansas City who
Marlene
gets his
was
head ripped off
Marlene.
by the... Yeah, Marlene was Marlene. Yeah, and so, and we don't know... I think there's also supposedly a cameo for Ashley Johnson too, so I'll be curious to see where she pops up. But yeah, I have no doubts that he'll do a good job. But Troy Baker is so recognizable that it's kind of off-putting seeing him as this rando.
Yeah, he
in the
looks like
fucking show.
every other dude, though. Like, if you don't know who Troy Baker is, he looks like any other dude. He's not
Yeah.
like...
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying from my perspective as
Yeah.
as someone who knows the games and stuff, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't
But-
look like Joel.
I don't know. He does not, no. And either way, I'm really interested. I guess the one thing that we kind of left out as far as the end of the episode goes is that she after she has this flashback, Ellie, she decides that she's going to stay and help. She's not going to leave. She didn't like Riley didn't leave her, so she's not going to leave Joel. And so she finds a sewing kit and goes back downstairs, and the last thing you see is her sewing up Joel's wound. Sewing up Joe. But yeah, it was I thought it was overall a really good episode.
Yeah, it was...
I was kind of wondering how much I would really enjoy like a episode long flashback of Riley and Ellie, because I think that it's good storytelling, but this is a short season compared to what you get to experience in the game, and I already feel like we maybe don't get enough Ellie and Joel interaction. And so because of, we lost a whole episode to Frank and Bill, Now we've lost a whole episode to Riley.
Ellie isn't really introduced to Joel until what, episode 2?
Yeah. So like, in the game we spent so much more time with the two of them together.
We've had 4 episodes
that,
with her and Joel.
Yeah. And not a lot of like, you want to see, I know this is probably maybe not the best TV, but like I like seeing those scenes where she's riding on the back of the horse with Joel and he's like explaining football to her or talking about being a contractor and stuff like that. Like these are things that while we're playing the game, he's talking to her the whole time, and you guys are like experiencing their relationship as you play.
Yeah.
But because there's no gameplay in this, they kind of have to just speed all of that up. And I hope that it doesn't seem too rushed, because the David sequence, they're gonna have to cram the whole David sequence and the whole hospital sequence into the whole St. Mary sequence into 2 episodes. And I imagine that probably episode 8, the next episode with David, will be a regular, like, hour-ish long episode. And I'm assuming / maybe hoping that the last episode will be a little longer.
Hour and a half,
maybe
or
closer
something.
to an hour and a half or so. Yeah, I don't know. It's really kind of interesting the way that they're pacing the show, but I think they're doing a good job all the way around, and I'm really enjoying what I'm watching.
Yeah. It definitely makes you recognize that this would not have been able to be done in a movie format. It would have been really hard to
Not unless it's like a fucking Ken Burns movie.
Right. It would have been really hard to capture this. I mean, they're struggling in 9 episodes, and 2 of the episodes have been over an hour. This last one was an hour. And I say 4 episodes because episodes 2 and 3, a little bit of Joel and Ellie. 4 was the David episode, or the Frank and Bill and Frank. And then 5.
No, that was...
Or was that 3?
That was 3.
Oh.
That was 3.
So 2...
4...
What was 4?
4 was them together. 5, there was a lot of Henry and Sam kind of in that episode,
Right.
which was fine. I thought 5 was an amazing episode.
And 6 was a lot of Tommy and Joel.
Right. So there's just, they haven't spent a lot of time
With Ellie and Joel.
with just Ellie and Joel together, kind of bonding. And I think that we're kind of getting that, but it's just quicker than we are used to.
I think a lot of it is just supposed to be implied or assumed that they've done this big travel together, so like they've cultivated this relationship. But I mean, I don't know, man. I wish it were 10 episodes, and I wish we just had 1 episode of them just traversing and talking and camping and hunting and, maybe dispatching a group of clickers. And, they've been through some shit together at this point for sure, but you are right. Like, you don't get a lot of them interacting with one another. Not as much as you would like, or not as much as I would like. I think it still serves the story, but yeah, I think 100%. I think that's where it's falling a little short of the game, where it's not really capturing their relationship perfectly yet. I don't know, but I think they're doing a great job. I've never seen a better video game adaptation in my life. So I mean, I don't
know that one exists. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Other than the '90s Mortal Kombat movie, obviously.
Street Fighter was really good too. Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
We kid. Anyways, that's about it. Jake, thanks for joining us again from Chi-Town, from Chicago. And this has been episode 7, reaction review of The Last of Us HBO series. And every Monday night, I'm uploading these really late. They show up because they have to, when I put them on YouTube, then it has to go through this whole compression thing. And then it's got to render it for higher quality. And by the time it's actually available reviewed, it's probably really late. So most of you are probably getting your dose of the show Tuesdays. But I do appreciate all the listeners. Jake does as well, I'm sure. But yeah, we're gonna let it go for there. Don't forget to check out our PlayStation podcast. P.S. This is awesome, a PlayStation podcast. And but this has been episode 7 of P.S. This is The Last of Us. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave comments underneath. Let us know what you thought of episode 7. of the show. Let us know what you think about the show in general. Our show, we're The Last of Us. Curious to hear what you guys have to say, and we'll be keeping an eye on the comments. Thanks so much. So until then, like The Last of Us, P.S.
P.S.
This is awesome.
This is awesome.